How's it going, everyone? I just got done playing about 2 hours of Black Myth Wukong this morning. Man, oh man, am I enjoying this game. You know, challenging action RPG, Souls-likes, whatever you want to call them. I feel like we're stretching the name of what a Souls-like is very thin, as I've said in previous videos. Whatever you want to call it. These sometimes more challenging action RPGs aren't always up my alley. But from a presentation standpoint, from a setting standpoint, a thematic standpoint, Black Myth Wukong has absolutely drawn me in. And while I haven't finished the game and I am still very early on, I have to say that this is gonna end up being one of my favorite games of the year. I am fairly confident in saying that already, but there was quite the rhetoric attached to this game for a while as far as some of the things that this game is doing. And honestly, what I had been saying about a lot of the, I guess you could call somewhat controversy around the game, I honestly thought it would elevate Black Myth Wukong's exposure. Not that it needed any elevation in that regard, because I thought the hype, the anticipation, the excitement was all already there. And what we can say right now is Black Myth Wukong is a game that is literally breaking records right now. You know, I talked about it earlier this year when it came to Stellar Blade. One of the hardest things to do in gaming these days is create a new IP, a AAA big budget title, and be a full price $60 or $70 game. And Stellar Blade was able to be a success at that. And I looked at Black Myth Wukong as another game that followed that entire criteria. It's from a studio that's unknown in game sign. It's a single player AAA big budget title that, I get it, it is obviously rooted in Chinese mythology, following the story of Journey to the West, but as far as a big budget game goes, a fairly new IP without any leg to stand on it. It's not like this is part of a historic IP. It's a single player game in an era where so many companies are going the live service route, and it's a full price title. And what has it done? It is slamming, destroying Steam concurrent player charts. As I am recording this video, it is at over 2 million concurrent players. By the way this is going, it is going to end up breaking the record that was set by Palworld earlier this year, and that is an absolutely astronomical feat for a $60 game. Palworld, I feel like, was a lot of people being a little bit of a prisoner of the moment. Palworld kind of came out of nowhere, then it popped off, and it had a, it had a momentum cool-off period as well, which is natural. It's gonna happen with Black Myth Wukong as well. I swear to the Lord, if I see articles, 3 weeks from now that are gonna be like, oh my god, Black Myth Wukong lost 95% of its player base, I am going to lose my mind, and I'm going to do that in a video. 2 million concurrent players right now is an incredible statistic, and I really do feel like we are only going to be growing. Generally speaking, as somebody that's been following Steam concurrent player counts for a while, games tend to peak over the weekend when people are off from work and everything like that. And as I'm recording this video, it is 8:30 a.m. Eastern time, and yeah, it's at over 2 million concurrent players. I actually played a little bit of it last night when the game unlocked at 10 p.m. Eastern, and the game was already at 1.1 million. I remember looking at the community hub section, and I texted my boy, because we're super into following charts like this, that it was at 1.1 million, and that already blew me away. And then I knew, waking up this morning, it's only gonna grow from here on out, because generally that's how things work. Not only that, now is when the dialogue of the game is really going to ramp up. Everybody in the gaming world kind of knew about Black Myth Wukong for years and years, but now, when you're talking about the game being promoted on the Steam front page, when you're talking about people actually getting their hands on the game, and more important than anything else, screw that 82 on Metacritic, which is a great score, no slight to the 82 on Metacritic. What matters more at the end of the day is the rhetoric from the consumer, and I would very much rather have the overwhelmingly positive reception that Black Myth Wukong currently has on Steam with 64,000 reviews, 96% positive. That means orders of magnitude more than that 82 on Metacritic these days. That's why I'm excited that PlayStation is going to implement something like Steam has with the review section, but I really do believe that mark of overwhelmingly positive means more than reviews do these days, just because there are so many reviews out there, and I do feel like the consumer opinion matters more because there's just more opinions to be had when you're talking about a large-scale consumer standpoint rather than each individual critic. I don't consider myself a critic. I'm just a dude that talks about video games, and I think the game is pretty damn good, and no slight to critics either. They're completely entitled to do their reviews, and there's a lot of great reviews out there. What I'm saying is that overwhelmingly positive metric matters a lot more, and people can say what they want. Oh my god, Steam reviews don't matter, it's just people trolling. No, it's people that actually paid $60 for the game, and they are giving their initial assessment of the game. Sure, there's a ton of people that haven't put a ton of time into the game, but hopefully they continue to play it. There are people with 8-9 hours in the game, and yeah, that doesn't really give you the whole picture of what this game is going to be, so there is that to take into account. But for the moment being, it being at overwhelmingly positive is a very, very good stat that is only going to propel the initial sales of the game even forward. And as I've mentioned, I am really enjoying the game performance-wise. On my PC, it is running very, very well, all things considered. You know, the game is fairly intensive, and if you need to knock down some of the settings, the vegetation settings, I think is something people should knock down. I have an RTX 3080, so it's not like top of the line as far as, you know, a 40 series GPU, but still a fairly high-end GPU, all things considered. But really enjoying the game, and I know there was a little bit of pushback as far as, you know, everything going on with the review guidelines and that stuff being sent out. I could get on a whole diatribe about that. At the end of the day, out of a video game, what do I want out of it? I want it to be a good video game. I want it to be something that has great presentation, that has a badass character that I can enjoy playing as, that has some cool combat, that has stylish presentation, that has a great soundtrack. Black Myth Wukong, everything else aside, all the controversy aside, let's assess the game in a vacuum because it's a single-player action RPG. And in a vacuum, if you eliminate all the nonsense, and even if you include all the nonsense, most of you guys don't care about that stuff. What is it? So far, from the little bit that I have played, it's an exceptionally well-done action RPG that I'm thoroughly enjoying. A lot of depth to its combat. Again, excellent visuals, so on and so forth. And I don't know if they're gonna be looking to do a sequel for this game. I don't know how the game wraps up as far as the narrative portion of it, if they can do a sequel for it. I am not too familiar with Chinese mythology and everything like that, but what I do know is they have a juggernaut of an IP on their hands, and if they don't decide to do a sequel on this, at the very least, Game Science has established themselves as a player in the game, in the gaming scene, as one of the studios everybody's gonna have their eye on, and whatever they do next, everybody's gonna know it's either a follow-up to this game or it's going to be from the developers of Black Myth Wukong, and they have established themselves again as a player in the industry. And I can say that just off playing a little bit of the game. And then you can look at, you know, the Metacritic score, an 82 again, no slight to it whatsoever. And Metacritic and critic reviews are important, but that 82 is still an incredibly successful number. But given how this game is selling right now, and let's refresh the community hub, 2,036,000 players as I am recording this video. We were talking about Helldivers 2 earlier this year doing incredibly well with 400,000 concurrent players, which was a great number. Black Myth Wukong at over 2 million concurrent players is an incredibly successful number. And let me also throw in this, huge loss by Microsoft and the Xbox brand. For whatever reason, I imagine it's because of the game not being able to run on the Xbox Series S. They didn't outline why the game was delayed on Xbox. That's the only conclusion I can come up with, but this is going to end up being one of, if not the biggest game of the year, at the very least the biggest single-player game of the year. And yeah, you're just losing out on it on the basis of not, for whatever reason. I have to imagine that it's Series S, but yeah, it's a great game, you guys. I think it's well worth the $59.99. Based on what I've played of it, I gotta play a lot more. I started playing it without all of you guys. I didn't get an early copy or anything like that. But right now, over 2 million players on Steam. And remember, more people on PlayStation. Overwhelmingly positive on Steam, which again, this is from the people that have only played a couple hours of the game, so take it with a grain of salt. But for the moment being, just having that marker of overwhelmingly positive, and if that can be retained, and generally speaking, just the rhetoric online is very positive. Again, I do believe the consumer rhetoric of how they perceive a game and how they're talking about a game online these days does matter more than what the critics say, and critic reviews are still incredibly important, and an 82 should not be scoffed at whatsoever. But from my vantage point, it's the dialogue online, that general dialogue that the larger consumer audience does have, and with Black Myth Wukong, it is incredibly positive. And this is gonna be, no hyperbole, for a new IP from an unknown studio, one of the most successful video game launches of all time. That is no hyperbole. Once again, it is one of the most successful video game launches of all time, and I think there's gonna be an audience out there that's going to be upset about that fact, and they didn't want this game to succeed. And that's probably a very small audience, but yeah, the facts are the facts at this point. With over 2 million concurrent players, this game is an absolute gargantuan success, and so far I'm enjoying it. Let me know what your guys' thoughts have been on the game so far. You know, digital only, which is a little bit of a bummer. I believe if you buy a physical copy, you get a voucher code, so that's obviously a bummer. Maybe they'll do a disc release after the success of this game. I'm really curious what Game Science's expectation level was for this game and what they had planned for the sales numbers to be, because sometimes, you know, expectations are crazy, and maybe this is just in line with their expectations, but I cannot see how that is the case. Who goes into releasing a game like this and is like, yeah, we're gonna break Steam records and we're gonna break all-time records for games? Like, I don't think that was their expectation, and I just think this game has been an incredible, a resounding success on all fronts. But again, that'll do it for me. Your thoughts down below. Sound off there. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.